Hello, this is Dr. Jewel Williams here with our author moment, and I'm calling it, I'm dealing or going through my book, I'm Delivered, Before, During, and the Aftercare of Wholeness. So let me try as quickly as I can tell you why I even wrote this book. I wrote this book actually, I think, for myself. I was going through a place where I was still dealing with some broken places that I didn't know needed healing. I was dealing with some frustration. I had been waiting on God to change some stuff and it hadn't changed. And I realized I was angry at God. I don't know. Maybe you're not going to be transparent enough to say it, but I'll raise my hand. Sometimes we get angry. And I know what the Lord said to me. He said, daughter, if you're angry at me, you can't receive from me. And so he had to heal me. And so he led me to write this book called I'm Delivered. I am delivered. The before, during, and the aftercare to wholeness. But he had me write it from a different kind of perspective. I wrote it almost clinically, if you will. So the chapters in here is what is deliverance? And then he had me kind of deal with this as though you were going to the doctor. So the next chapter is the diagnosis. Sometimes we can't heal what we don't know is broken. And then the third chapter is before care process. And so I deal with what's some things that you need to prepare to get ready so that God can heal or deliver in those areas during your procedure. And then I talk about, like, when you go to the doctor and they're getting ready to put you under, there's some steps to that. And so there's some steps to the procedure of us being healed and set free. And then I talk about the recovery room. When you go through surgery, you don't go to surgery and go right out the door. There's a recovery room. They want to make sure that you are coming out of the anesthesia. So it's like God wants to make sure that there's no reinfection, if you will. And then the next chapter 6 is the aftercare process. Just like you have instructions when you go to the doctor, when you leave, there's some things they tell you need to be doing, right? That's what is here. This is the aftercare process, because many of us, we get healed, we get delivered, and then we just kind of say, I can keep staying the same. No. There's some things that you actively have to change, mainly in your mind, and so that you are able to do that. And then the 7th chapter is the new DNA. And I talk about really walking in this newness that God has given to you. And that final piece is the forever bloom. And I just kind of share a little bit of what I journaled through over the years. And God had me put some of that in the book. And I talk about, like I said, this is the recovery room. And so I just take you through. Now, you could just get the book and the book is fine. But when I first wrote this, my beta team said, look, you're asking some deep questions. And because you're asking these deep questions, we need a workbook. So I also produced the workbook for you. So you can read the chapter. And then after you read the chapter, you go in and you follow along in the workbook. So for example, after you read chapter 1, then you would come in here and there's plenty of room for you to go ahead and answer those questions. That's the teacher part in me. I give you just these extra questions. So there's more to the workbook than it's in the book. The workbook just kind of deals with each of those chapters. And then there's some additional questions that are asked as you continue in each section. And so again, the workbook is $9.99. The book itself is $14.99, and I'm excited to announce that I've won 3 different awards for this book. One, I won first place. One, I won honorable mention, and then one, I think, also was kind of like first runner-up or something like that. So I've gotten some great feedback on this book. Even some of the individuals that have read the book have said, hey, you're telling my story. And I know that happens a lot because I believe God allows us to be able to see ourselves in somebody else's journey, because a lot of times we are all kind of walking some parallel spaces. And so again, I'm delivered. I am delivered. It's available in, depending on where you see this, it's in my store. You can get the workbook and the book together. So as I always say, support an author. Let it be me. God bless.